This is Performance Anxiety on the Pantheon Podcast Network, and I'm your host, Mark. And today's guest schooled me about NAMM, the North American Music Merchants. Welcome NAMM President and CEO, John Mlynczak. Before we get into the meat of what NAMM is and does, John talks about his musical history. Music and music education have always been an important part of his life. He pursued that path from Virginia all the way to LSU, but I won't hold that against him. He talks about creating the first music technology curricula in the state of Louisiana and how that led him to a job with PreSonus, who make music software, monitors, mixers, and more. That led to a great opportunity with music publishing company Hal Leonard. John also talks about the very long process of becoming the president and CEO of NAMM. But before that, he gives a little history of NAMM and shares some of his own experience at NAMM shows before he started working there. I learned what goes into planning each NAMM show, what to expect if you go, and how NAMM is expanding to include content creators and influencers. NAMM is an industry show, and John talks about how they've evolved over the years. He explains what NAMM offers to its members at the show and throughout the year. He also tells me about NAMM Next and the amazing NAMM archives. He also talks about how COVID affected them and how it made them innovate and how NAMM is bouncing back better than ever. Go to NAMM.org to get information about what they do and how to attend the 2025 NAMM show. Follow them at The NAMM Show on social media. Follow us at Performance ANX on social media as well. Merch is available at performanceanx.threadless.com, and you can send us money to go to NAMM at ko-fi.com/performanceanxiety. Now please welcome John Mlynczak of NAMM on Performance Anxiety on the Pantheon Podcast Network.
My name is John Mlynczak. I am the CEO and president of NAMM, the National Association of Music Merchants, and you are listening to the Performance Anxiety Podcast.
Hey,
Mark.
Hey, John. Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you.
Sorry, my glasses are. It's so hard. I've got these damn bifocal, the transition ones, and I'm always
progressives.
Yeah.
I tried those, but yeah, I was nodding at everybody.
Yeah, and then my neck gets sore. So, well, I mean, it's better than. I mean, I can kind of see still, but I gotta put them on. I got LASIK like 20 years ago, and it wore off.
I heard it does that.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about doing it too. I was a trumpet player and I got progressive so I could see the conductor, but I could also see the music. The problem is as I got down the page, I'd have to lean back. So as I was reading a chart, at the bottom of the page, my bell would go up and the conductor's like, "Why are you so loud? Put your bell down." I'm like, "I can't see." So I would really read the page and my bell would go up like, da-da-da-da-da. Crazy.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. I have to tell my daughter. My daughter was a trumpet player, so she'll get a kick out of that. So, thank you for joining me tonight. This is a different angle than I normally take, and I love it.
Yeah. All right. Well, let me know. I'm game for anything. We'll have some fun and let's go at it.
Let's jump into it. All right. So you're here not as a musician per se, but obviously music is a big part of your life. I'd like to find out how you got to where you are. And we'll do that by starting at the beginning. So growing up, was there a lot of music in the house? Was it a big factor in your childhood?
Yes, music was always a factor. And I would absolutely say that I got to where I am today because of being a musician. Okay. I feel like most all the skills of leadership, you learn through mastering a craft and working with other people in musical ensembles. So I grew up with instruments around, banging on guitars as early as I can remember. We had the grandma's piano in the house that we'd play on, and we'd just anything that could make a sound. Always fascinated, loved elementary school music. Every time I was in that class, that was my favorite class to go to. Didn't like PE as much, but music was always fun. Middle school, you get that, like, what's your elective you want to take? It was music. I never had a choice. I never did keyboarding. I can't type normally today because I never took keyboarding. I took music. And I played trumpet, so I only got to use 3 fingers. So That's all. Actually, I started on trombone, so I didn't use any fingers. That was even the worst.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then high school, music. And then what do you want to major in college? I never thought twice, Mark. It was, I want to major in music. I want to teach music. I want to play music, and I just nonstop. And then what do you want to do for grad school? Are you going to grad school? Yes. I'm going to major in music. I'm going to go somewhere else. And luckily got to be a pretty good trumpet player. So I got scholarships everywhere, and I got to be assistantships to go, be the graduate assistant and teach the undergrad players, and went to LSU for my master's. So I was in Louisiana playing a ton in New Orleans.
I'll forgive you for that.
Oh, are you an SEC guy?
Yeah, I'm actually studying advertising and PR at Alabama right now in my master's.
Oh man, yeah. Well, they didn't prep us for this. I don't know if some SEC trash talk here, but okay. Saban Hate Week is the best week in Baton Rouge.
Well, you're gonna have to change it now to DeBoer Hate Week, and it's gonna not be as much. I mean, he doesn't have
knowing LSU fans, I think it'll be as much.
Yeah. Well, okay, good point. But he doesn't have that LSU connection that Saban did, so it's not going to be as bitter.
I think LSU fans will still do what they do best, which is hate on every other SEC team. So
I will say that a friend of mine, well, I guess that now he's an acquaintance. He lived down the road. Our kids went to Boy Scouts together, and he's actually the musical director at LSU right now. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So Damon Talley, shout out to Damon.
Oh yeah. Damon Talley. I know Damon. He had taken over right after I left, but he's been, in touch. Great guy. LSU got a great hire with Damon. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Really have him there because he followed a legend in Frank Wicks, and it's hard to follow like the legendary guy, but Damon has done a really good job establishing himself there. So,
well, he was here at Shenandoah. Yeah, he was here at Shenandoah, and his son went to school with my son. They were in Boy Scouts together, and so I got to know Damon a little bit, and sad to see him go. But man, what an opportunity! You just can't pass up at school like LSU.
Yeah, and he's been great for LSU, so we're happy to see that because I'm LSU grad. But yeah, music. I mean, it was really playing, gigging. I mean, anything. You play trumpet, you can do classical, you can do jazz, you can do weddings, you can do wedding receptions, you can do ceremonies, you can play, graduation gigs, show gigs, every musical that came through town. Always picking up musicians. The South has a lot of music, so it's a really good place to shed. And that was my life for a long time. I was going to be a professional musician. And it was, you play a lot and you get there, and then later on you're like, I want to do something more. And I had this idea of, really involved in education. I really loved education. I started teaching music because you learn when you're going to be a professional trumpet player. Nobody needs trumpet at 9:30 a.m. on a Tuesday.
Right.
So yeah, you either, you're teaching college, you're teaching school, you're gigging, you get health insurance, steady gig, you gig on the weekends, Thursday night, Friday night, all weekend long, play the shows. So that's the life, and I loved it. And I really, and that was a lot of fun. There was some point I went back and did a second master's in education leadership. I really wanted to be I wanted to go in arts and men.
Okay.
Like you get to those points in life where you're just going nonstop and you get this pause. You're like, I wonder what's next. And for me at the time, maybe 15, 18 years ago, I can't do the math right now. It was a long time. I decided I want to prepare myself for something else. So I think maybe, moving into arts administration, either a district or in Louisiana's parishes,
right,
or state supervisor of arts or whatever. I just want to get this credential. So I got this credential to be the same as a school principal credential.
Oh, okay.
So I got that licensed, administrator, learned a ton about adult learning theory, education, practice, all of that. Really, really valuable degree. It was the first time I did something outside of music, like doing a degree that wasn't music. And it was like, wow, this is great. And then at some point I was really into music technology. Like that was my jam. I was teaching music, but I was always recording myself. I was recording, school bands and recording solos on the side. I had my little rig. I had like a PreSonus interface. I had my laptop. I had Cubase. I had a little setup with some microphones, and I was recording people. I was editing. It was like a side hobby.
Oh, wow.
And then I started doing that, teaching my students. I was like, I want to start a recording class, but it ended up being a music technology class because kids I thought I was teaching them how microphones work. And I'm like, oh, this is headroom and this is how to adjust a preamp. And they're in there like on my computer, like making beats in Cubase. And I'm like, oh, show me how you did that. Like, that's cool.
Wow. Oh, that's amazing.
It was a cool time. Yeah. It was fascinating. So that was it. I'm going to, so I'll start teaching music technology, everything organically. And then it was a time in like 2008 to 2012 when iPhone came out in 2007. iPad launched in 2010. GarageBand is readily accessible for everyone. You got these tools you can use. A lot of other, the web, internet, the Flash got really, really good. HTML5 started coming out, and you all of a sudden had like technology. Flash changed the game. Flash was a flash in the pan and web technology. But when Flash was out, you could build online apps and do cool stuff. And that was a time where there's all these online ways to do music. And I started just doing it with my students, and we doubled the music program. Oh, wow. We had more kids playing instruments and more kids in music. And I just started like going down that path, and I started teaching other teachers what I was doing and showing it. And then eventually I realized there was actually no curriculum. So I got the curriculum approved by the state of Louisiana. It was the first music technology curriculum ever in the state. And you had to go through all the red tape of the State Department. But I got the administration degree, so I knew how to do that and made some friends with folks. And I thought that was going to be a path. And then bam, I met some guys at PreSonus Audio based in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and they were like, we'd love to get in this education. How do we get our entire ecosystem into the education world? Long story short, I left my teaching job, sad, cried about it, missed the kids, took a leap of faith, started working with PreSonus, building what an education division could be.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.
Then connected to Hal Leonard through curriculum projects, larger distribution deals. Hal Leonard, I told PreSonus, I love you, but I love Hal Leonard more. It's all good. Went to Hal Leonard 3 years later, ran an online music software that I was using as a teacher before, NoteFlight. Got involved in all of Hal Leonard's education and technology initiatives. And then honestly, I came here. So I spent 10, 11 years in the industry. Wow. Went to my first NAMM show in 2013, was blown away. Loved the industry. I walked into NAMM the first time as an educator. I had been at PreSonus 3 weeks.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Started January 1. They said, book your flight to LA. Why? Because you're going to the NAMM show. I said, what's the NAMM show? Went there. I had no idea this massive world of an industry existed. I was a teacher. Now, I was teaching music tech. I was gigging in a band with like a pretty high tech band. We had in-ear monitors, doing iPad control mixes, lights, sound, the whole thing. We were like rocking out. I'm like, I use this stuff. I play the stuff. I teach these things. I had no idea this entire ecosystem was out there. That's when like you lit a fire and you're like, I think this is coming together for me. And then long story, through, the CEO of NAMM retired. I'm the fourth CEO of NAMM in 76 years.
That's incredible.
It's a long-term job. Yeah, it's great, but I'm happy to be here. And it's all because of music making. It always goes back to making music, because you learn to master your craft. You learn that no matter how well the gig goes, you can always do better. You have a great night, next morning you go in the practice room and get better. You have a bad night, next morning you go in the practice room and get better. You work with people. You realize that you might be on stage for 2 hours, but on tour for 22 other hours with people.
Yeah.
So you're a good person. You're a good hang. You treat people right. You work hard, and you always just keep pursuing better and better. And that's what musicians do endlessly. And that's what makes musicians driven, passionate, and great people.
Okay. So let's back up for just a second. So for those who don't know, can you just give me a little bit of a description on what PreSonus is and does, and same with Hal Leonard, just so we can get more of an idea of what your background is.
For sure. So PreSonus is a audio manufacturer. They actually, I think they started in 1995 at a NAMM show. And PreSonus is one of the leaders in audio interfaces, now audio recording software. They make Studio One. They have some really quintessential studio gear, like every studio will have like the fader port. They have some really cool products. They make a lot of like digital analog preamps, mixers, now speakers. They've expanded so much, but PreSonus is started as a studio gear company and then really expanded into the market.
Okay.
And Hal Leonard is the world's largest music publisher. They also have a huge division in just distributing mainly music technology to retailers. And they also own a couple direct to consumer websites that sell sheet music and technology. They own NoteFlight, and they're recently acquired by the Muse Group, who owns Ultimate Guitar and MuseScore. And now it's one big Hal Leonard Muse Group, MuseScore family, and that really expands the potential there. And I've always been along for a ride. Every job I've had has been a job that's been about being on the forefront of doing something that's never been done before. In fact, the only job I've ever applied for in my life is the one I'm in right now.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Even the school I taught at, it was like, hey, we need some help. Sure, I'll come out and do a couple classes. Hey, can you come on full time and reinvent the program and like add additional experiences? And so it was like, I didn't even apply for my teaching job. It sort of fell in, and we crafted it. Priestliness opened a new position. Hal Leonard opened new positions. It was always I've always been really excited about like going back to the practice room and figuring out what's possible.
Man, I need to hang out with you more often.
I just had a lot of coffee today, so I'm all jacked up. But no, it's fun. But again, it's not because of anything special about me. I think it's special about the teachers I've had. Like it's back to being a music maker. Like we are trained that for better or for worse, it's never good enough. You could always be better. You can always, in a trumpet player, you can always play faster or higher. You can always, more beautiful sound, have more endurance, and we just strive for it endlessly.
Yeah. I think that's what drives a lot of creative people. I'm a photographer, so it kind of does the same thing for me. Like every shoot, I'm like, if I had done this, it would have been a little bit better. If I had changed this setting, it could have, the photo would have been a little bit better. So I know exactly what you're talking about. So while you're doing all these amazing jobs, are you still in bands playing?
Yes, and I was always gigging. It's sad that now in this job there's so much to do at NAMM, and I of course move into a new town and a very big market. I really haven't. The horn's been actually they're sitting over there in my office, but the horn's been away from my face for too long right now. But I needed to really focus on this transition and moving across the country and taking this role. But yeah, I kept playing. I mean, a ton in Louisiana. I moved to Boston when I started working for Hal Leonard because the company I was hired to be at was actually in Boston. Hal Leonard's out of Milwaukee.
Okay.
But I moved to Boston. I played in like a concert band and gigged some out there. And I'd go back to Louisiana and play some gigs and still connected as needed. Yeah. And then when I just moved to California, it's, I miss it. I really do. But
so you did your undergrad at VCU, right? Where are you from? Virginia originally?
Yep, Richmond, Virginia, born and raised.
Oh, nice. I'm in Winchester.
Oh, cool.
All right, so you've got this incredible position with NAMM, and if I remember that it was quite a long, lengthy process. So for the job that you didn't have to apply for, this seems to have made up that time because it was.
It's a really good point. It was probably 9 months.
Wow.
Actually, it was a year from the first time I submitted my interest letter to when I started. It was almost a year. But you submit your interest letter, then they collect them all. The first time I started talking to people was it was probably 9 months.
All right, so I've never been to a NAMM convention. I've always been outside. I'm not a musician myself. I'm a very bad, poorly self-taught guitar player, but I have heard just amazing stories. I've got a lot of friends who are musicians, met a lot of people through this podcast who have performed at NAMM, been the guy doing the demos and stuff at NAMM. It sounds like it's just enormous and like a world unto itself. That
is correct. And we call it the NAMM Show. And actually we now refer to like the NAMM Show 2024. The next NAMM Show is 2025 because every NAMM Show is unique and special. It's about the products that are launched that year. It's about the industry. But yes, the NAMM Show we don't even call it a trade show. We don't call it a convention. We as a team, we scope out and attend and work with every other convention trade show in our industry, outside of our industry, in like industries, hobby and luxury industries. We're looking at everything. Wow. The NAMM Show is very unique. And I know it's unique because our products sing. Our products play. Right. Our products have energy and life because and I used to say this when I taught a long time because I used to teach graduate courses too. Like I started teaching teachers like how to do music technology. That was always my thing, and teaching creativity. At the end of the day, you think about what do we teach? Are we teaching, a Studio One software? Are we teaching Pro Tools software? Are we teaching trumpet? Are we teaching guitar? We're teaching people to make sounds that create human emotion. We're creating human emotion, and we're making sounds to do that. And every product in our industry facilitates that. So when you have an industry that's literally about creating sound that makes emotion and makes the world like just driven and passionate, then how are you going to have a trade show that's not so unique and driven and passionate? It's just, that's what we have to create. We have to create the world. Every industry creates their trade show around that industry's needs.
Yeah.
Not that the insurance industry trade show isn't a rockin' time.
I've been to one of those.
But I'm just saying, when you're exhibiting products and working with people who sell those products and distribute those products and influence others to purchase those products, it becomes a very awesome experience. And you have to have the artist. A product in a booth is beautiful. A product in the hands of a master craftsperson, like an artist, is a different story. And that's where the energy comes from.
And it's just, like you were saying, music is emotive. And so an entire event about what makes music and innovation in music, it sounds electric. One of these days I'm hoping I can go. But before we get too deep into that, let's explain NAMM a little bit to people. What does NAMM stand for? And what do you guys do outside of the NAMM show?
Yeah, I'm really glad that you asked that question. So NAMM is the National Association of Music Merchants. We are a 124-year-old association. We were founded in 1901, so we're coming up on 124.
Okay.
And we are the association that represents anyone who makes, manufactures, sells, distributes musical products. And that also extends to people who might work with musical products, whether luthier, repair, front of house engineer, et cetera. We have company and individual members, but as an association, we are first and foremost a 501c6 membership association that is the representative for the entire industry of musical products. And what we do is we put on the world's largest music products show, the NAMM show, where the entire industry gathers, over 125 countries, 75,000 plus attendees, 1,800 plus exhibitors. It is a massive, amazing time. But we are also an association who is the representative for our industry and is responsible for helping our companies be successful. Because first and foremost, our job is to help every company and individual making, creating, and selling, distributing, and influencing others to use musical products. We have to make them successful. So that means we represent these companies on all policy issues, both U.S. and global. We work with partners across the world on anything from supply chain to compliance. We focus on music education, advocacy, business compliance, and workforce development. We do a lot of work to ensure the next generation says, I want to work in the music products industry. We want to recruit the best talent to our industry.
Okay.
We have a lot of work as an association. We also operate the NAMM Foundation, which is a 501c3 charitable foundation. Everything we do at NAMM Show and NAMM is to give into our C3 foundation, which we give back to creating more music makers worldwide. So we are a nonprofit through and through. Every dollar we earn goes into creating more music makers worldwide. We do this by granting organizations strategically across all age groups and all industry segments across the world. We do this through market development programs. We have a Careers in Music initiative. We award the best communities for education. And we also scholarship. We have a college program too, Gen Next. We work with college students to help them, be successful in careers. Okay. We also scholarship people to come to the NAMM show, and we have a scholarship for our Women of NAMM Summit, which is where we bring in and train, female leaders, because in our industry we are very underrepresented with female leadership. So we work very closely with Women of NAMM to scholarship attendees to have that service. So to wrap it all up, I know it was a lot. We think about three things. We are a foundation that creates more music makers worldwide. Our job is to make more music makers everywhere. Easy task. So simple. Our association represents every company making, selling, distributing a product that's creating all of the things and stuff that music makers use to be successful. We help those companies be successful through research, data, all of the work we do for the companies. We do a lot of education for companies. The NAMM show has a lot of education where retailers and now manufacturers go and they get training on business. We do lots of business compliance work. Right now, it's all about how AI can help your business be more successful. So we do all of that for our companies, and we put on the world's greatest music products trade show.
That's amazing. That is incredible. So did you have to, it almost sounds like you had to take a course in the history of NAMM with this job.
You know, it's interesting. When I got the job, I took a month off, and I've never done that between jobs, but I knew this was very important and I needed to like center myself a little bit.
Right.
And I asked, what history do you have? We have an amazing history program. We have an amazing historian at NAMM, and we have documentation, I mean, all the way back to 1901.
Oh, wow.
And we have written like typewritten notes of minutes of board meetings, all these different documentation, every issue of Music Trade since 1890. We have all. And so I said, give me everything. Yeah. I read like every piece of history from 1901 to today to really help me understand, because, you know, we as an association think in decades, and all of the things we work through are trends, are cycles. And we're in a cycle right now. I mean, COVID, obviously, but we're in a financial cycle, and not just music, but every industry.
Yeah.
We're in a cycle where people, you know, conservative spending, you stop spending on luxury, you stop spending on extra. You know, 2 years ago, when the cost of gas and bread was like really hurting people, you don't buy that third guitar.
Right, right.
But now, as you can see, you know, the Fed starts lowering interest rates, the stock market's up, people are feeling more. We're starting to feel, I mean, the industry's coming back. Our job is to help our companies navigate through that and see those trends. And a lot of the history is not only NAMM history, but what happened in the 80s when we had 20% mortgage interest rate? Well, companies consolidated. What happened over the past 5 years as interest rates skyrocketed? Companies consolidated. You know, you have to make sure, especially as a young guy coming in to take over something, I don't want to be reactionary to something right now that with experience or knowledge, I could say, you know what? This is a 30-year cycle, and let's just stay calm, learn from the past, adapt for the future. We can do this.
Okay. So NAMM offers more than just the NAMM show to its members.
Absolutely.
It offers a lot of guidance, it sounds like.
A lot of guidance. We started a new event called NAMM Next. We started it last July. We'll do it again. It's actually going to be June 29th through July 1st in Nashville. And this is a new type of event, but it's all about professional development for companies. It's about companies sending their leaders, their C-suite, and their emerging leaders, and we bring in top speakers from other industries to help our industry understand the forces outside of our industry that we can adapt to be successful.
Oh, wow.
That's a really cool event, because we do a lot of research and data. We'll go out and commission a major research study on consumer experience using AI, and then we'll provide that to NAMM members, because we can do it once and provide it to 5,000 members instead of 5,000 individual companies going out and trying to figure this out on their own. So we as an association work really hard to make sure our members are successful.
Oh, that's amazing. I love him because, as I said, I'm not being a musician. My knowledge of NAMM is very limited, and it's basically limited to, hey, this guy played this thing at the NAMM show it's on YouTube. So learning about this is fascinating to me. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.
Yeah, and look, you mentioned a lot of people say, I want to go to NAMM, and look, we love the buzz. Like, NAMM is an amazing show, and we're doing a lot more. We're actually opening NAMM Week this week. It's a 5-day event model, 3 days of exhibits, because the events and networking. What happens at the NAMM show is about making those companies successful. We absolutely need artists showcasing this instrument. We need influencers. We need the next generation college students. We have a great buzz, but at our core, it's about helping the companies. Yeah. Now, there are millions of people worldwide that watch the NAMM show. And we're trying to get a number right now about how many people stream content and push content live from the NAMM show. We're actually amping that up even more because we want the world to stop the third week of January and watch everything about music products and what's new. That's what the NAMM show does. So I don't want anyone to feel like, oh, I can't get to the NAMM show, or, I'm not allowed to go in because I'm not in the industry. But we're actively pushing out because the NAMM show is a celebration of the music products industry. And there's no coincidence that it's always a week before the Grammys. Because my dream is to have NAMM week before Grammy week.
Oh, I love it.
But it works because everyone's in LA. They're getting ready for the Grammys. They'll come down to NAMM. They'll do some stuff. It's a drive. It's an energy. So combined, and we love our partners at the Grammys. We talk a lot. We're completely different organizations, but we have the same mission. Grammys is representing all the producers, recording artists. I mean, they're the National Recording NARIS. We are the products lane. They're the recording arts lane. Combined, we are the entire industry. So we think about our sort of 2-week excitement. And it's all in Southern California, just miles away from each other.
That is amazing. I don't know why I never put the two together. With COVID, that really had a big impact. Are you seeing the bounce back in the past year or two from what basically killed a lot of anything that was public with the pandemic? Is it coming back?
Yes, it's coming back very strong. And back to the history, the industry, music making, but also just industries in general, have had many disruptions. You go back to the Great Depression, how many people who was buying music instruments then,
right,
when you're waiting in line for soup? You talk about, World War I before that, World War II, where, every piece of raw material available was for the war effort. Factories closed. You couldn't make musical instruments. You couldn't get metal for strings or piano frames.
Right.
And even companies were, forced to work for the war effort. And so we've had this over and over. We've also had technology like the internet completely changed the way people buy and all of this. But through and through, COVID was a very different disruption. And, you could argue, was it the worst? In a lot of ways, none of the other disruptions said it's literally not safe to move air around people or gather, because most instruments, move air and everyone gathers for music.
Yeah.
So yes, it was a huge disruption, and we're on the other side of it, and we're still feeling the effects that will work its way out, but also the effects that we learned. I mean, COVID allowed us to think differently, and there's really positive things as well as far as disruption. So maybe I'll start with some of the disruptions that we're getting out of.
Sure.
Obviously, no one was making music, but live touring completely stopped. Home instruments went up. Now, the live touring is back stronger than ever. People are out gathering, so that part of the industry is pushing. School music is back stronger than ever. After years of disruption in schools, that's up. And what's really exciting to think about is at a time when humanity was scared and really unsure, they made music. And there were really big disruptions to live touring industry. There's really big disruptions, but you know what boomed in 2021? I mean, the biggest boom we've ever seen: guitars, home pianos, home keyboards, and Pelotons. You look at
wow.
Guitars and Pelotons broke records.
Really?
Exercise equipment, the number one industry that surged was home fitness. The second industry was home music making. We moved more guitars and electric pianos and ukuleles and home recording gear. It just boomed. Now, that completely bust when everyone started going back to live tours. And so what it really created is complete inventory topsy-turvy. You have all this inventory, you have all this demand. We didn't have enough guitars, so we're trying to make them as fast. Our companies are making as many guitars and pianos as possible. All that starts coming in. Now, of course, the lead time, 6 months, making more instruments than ever, importing, domestic, everywhere. Anyone who could make guitars, making guitars and pianos. And then all of the COVID restrictions on essential products only.
Yeah.
We had remember the ships outside of
strike. Yeah.
So all those instruments sat, and then the demand dropped and all the surplus inventory showed up. So it was actually after COVID that we're like, that boom busted. But then live touring came back. Now school music got decimated, but then school music came back. And now we're seeing all the inventory surplus work its way out. So as an industry, we like completely seesawed. One was up, one was down, one was up, one was down. So all of that, there's certain companies that, navigated better than others. And as a retailer, you had one line of instruments that were rocking, one line of instruments that were sitting up. Interest rates are going up at the same time. So you got inventory city that's not moving, but it's financed. So all of a sudden inventory is costing you money.
Right.
You have all these compounding issues. So COVID was decimating not only for what society had to do to get through, but also all the residual effects. Those are things that just work themselves out. We're on the other side of that. All of those are working their way out. But I will tell you, if you ever question the importance and significance and power of music making in a human being's life, if school music and the desire to make music in school, I know we've always said school music's the first thing to cut, blah, 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 blah. And I've fought those battles as an advocate. We are strong advocates for music education, but school music stopped. Live music stopped.
Yeah.
And people made music at home. The desire for humans to make music, we know that it is not going away. And that is a very, very strong message for our industry. Now, all the wackiness that happened about all the disruption, we'll figure all that out. But at the end of the day, if I'm ever worried about something decimating the human spirit's ability to make music, I mean, literally not being able to move air and stand next to each other, I couldn't think of anything worse. So,
right. So there's always hope.
There's a lot of hope. We're a strong industry. People want to make music. Our job is to make sure that our companies are getting every resource they can to be successful. And we want to grow more music makers. And that's why the foundation is a separate association because of the C3, C6 nonprofit status. But in our world, the foundation is a core part of NAMM. We create more music makers through the foundation. We help companies succeed through NAMM member services, and we put on the best musical products trade show to help our industry grow. And we think about that every day.
So you mentioned that you've gone to NAMM shows as a participant, not the CEO of NAMM, but as an educator or as an employee for a company. Do you enjoy things differently going as a participant than you do as part of NAMM?
Very well worded question. Do I enjoy things differently? The NAMM show has always been, and my wife jokes, she's like, remember we used to go to the NAMM show and say NAMM's the happiest place on earth? And I used to say that jokingly because we're right across from Disneyland in Anaheim, California. But I'm like, NAMM is the happiest place on earth. I used to get so jacked in January. Like, I can't wait to go to the NAMM show. NAMM show time. It's NAMM time. And that's what our industry does. And so feeling the buzz on the other side, the first thing I'll say, first and foremost, is you go to the NAMM show and it is massive and amazing, well-produced, highly organized. Everyone's seen that. When you realize that there's only 55 people behind that, you're like, there's no way.
Wow.
This staff puts on all of that and organizes 600 events and does all this. We have some of the best people in the world. We have people that are and they've been here decades. It is the bench is so deep at NAMM. The knowledge is so strong. On the other side, I see the best people in the world. And there's nothing better than finishing a NAMM show and just sitting down with your staff and just saying, we did it. And like the tears and the energy and the positivity. It's the best team in the world. Obviously, walking the NAMM show as CEO, I'm pulled in 6,000 directions. So, which is great. I want to be visible. And actually, one of my commitments is, obviously a lot of people want to meet and we try to accommodate all of that. But I'm adamant that I have to be seen. Like in my schedule, I protect it. I'm walking the floor for 2 hours. I need to be out there seeing who's at the show. I want to be visible as possible. And can I take 6 steps? Not really. But it's a role that people come up, not because I'm John Mlynczak, because they love NAMM so much and they want to tell me their stories. They want me to hear their product, what they do, because they just realize that NAMM is really part of the threads of the industry. And I love that, and we listen and we're this year, we're getting more of our staff out there. We're really making plans to make sure all of our, account executives are out there talking to their members, meeting with their folks, feeling the buzz.
So there's more than just the products. You have educational, are they like seminars, or what goes on during a NAMM show besides showing people products?
Yeah, the three pillars of a successful NAMM show are networking, education, and exhibits. And education is so important. And we look at who we have various tracks, and because there is no such thing as a NAMM show attendee. We think, NAMM is, will be 75,000 people in January. We think of ourselves as 75 1,000 person communities, because you have people there that might be interested in fretted products or even guitar. And that might be pedals, straps, chords, electric guitars, might be acoustic guitar players. That's another community. Pro audio, lighting, sound, education, engineering, front of house, all of that. So you think about all these different sectors of the industry, we think about communities. So on the education side, we looked, how are we providing opportunities for people to better themselves? So we'll do like Dante training for the pro audio side. We'll do education training for educators to come learn about the products and learn about alternative teaching methods and all of the ways to better serve their students. We'll have education for retailers. A huge part of what we do is help the people selling the products to consumers be more successful. Tons of retail education, whether it's business finance, AI tools for business is big right now.
Yeah.
We do tons of marketing summits all over. We're trying to do more education for brands and manufacturers. Of course, they're exhibiting at the show, so it's hard for them to leave the floor, but we're doing more of that Tuesday and Wednesday this year, because we're doing a 5-day Tuesday, Wednesday networking education only. Thursday, Friday, Saturday networking education exhibits. It's a big part of what we do. And we also try to be really strategic to make sure that, like, if I show up and I'm a front of house engineer, like, where do I go? How do I find the right path? So we think about, like, okay, well, when are the networking events for pro audio? When are the sessions? When are the booths, demos happening? When are the events that other companies are throwing, so that there's no like conflict? We think about community so people can walk through. Okay. Networking is everything on a trade show. We're doing more and more with the app. The app, you can look up people that are there. You can use the app to like recommend people you should meet.
Oh, cool.
Some of the AI pieces that involve there, just subtly dabbling in that world. We try to do a lot of strategic events, like you on the schedule. It's not like I bumped into someone at the bar. It's on the schedule. There's like all sorts of networking receptions specifically for different communities. So hopefully they can go there and meet someone that will change their life.
Oh, that is amazing. And my understanding is that it's opened up to more than just musicians now. They're like content creators and influencers are now welcomed into the show.
Yes, welcomed. And they're a huge part of the industry. Again, our lane is musical products, and we are a trade show, meaning we're not open to anyone who walks in. We're not a consumer show in that you can show up and buy gear. There's no selling on the floor. I mean, there's dealers writing orders from their manufacturers, but that's not like, hey, it's not a consumer area.
Right.
We have to realize that our job is to elevate the brands and the musical products. And today, you can look at any research you want, any consumer research through any of the big ones. We work with Forrester, but you can look at Gartner, you can look at anyone else, McKinsey, whatever. And you will see that consumer behavior is you're going to the point of sale, you're going to the person you're going to end up purchasing that instrument from at least third in your journey.
Oh, okay.
Number one place you start is YouTube.
Really?
The second might be Instagram, TikTok, or blogs, content. People are researching what to play based on the artists they follow, based on content creators and influencers. That's usually, and you can ask our retailers, customers are walking in saying, I want this product in blue because I saw it here.
Wow.
And our retailers are getting really, really good about being content creators themselves. Because again, this is a decade-long trend, and we've seen it, with different technologies. The 800 number was the revolutionary technology of the day at one point, but now it's the internet and content creation. A retailer and an influencer there's a huge gray area on that Venn diagram today. And I think it's going to continue to get more and more and more coverage where retailers are employing influencers to create content about brands, and brands are employing influencers to drive demand for retailers to capitalize on. And so influencers and content creators are one of the most important audiences that is the glue between elevating these brands and helping retailers be successful in selling the brands.
Were the members of NAMM open to that change? I mean, was that a hard one to push through, or was it fairly easy to for lack of a better term, sell to people, to let people like me in?
Yeah, this change was an easy one, because what we realized is they've always been there. And so the opening up to it was to formally recognize, and I have this whole like come as you are thing, now with NAMM Show, because these influencers were always being brought, retailers were using their guest badges and their additional badges to bring in their influencers. Manufacturers, exhibitors were using their exhibitor badges to bring in artists. The artists and the influencers were showing up with an exhibitor badge because that exhibitor brought them in to demo their product. And that still happens, but we've actually made changes where now an exhibitor can register an influencer. The influencer gets an influencer badge, but still representing that they're an influencer for that brand. Okay. And so the way the market has shifted and the needs of the industry have shifted, we've adapted the way we do badging and registration. So this particular move was us, quite frankly, catching up. Okay. And just allowing people to come as you are, because we believe a successful trade show, everyone looks at a badge and says, I know who you are, I know what you do, and I know how you bring me value. Right. Or, in fairness, I know that you don't bring me value, and I'm going to talk to this next person because I've got 6,000 people trying to get to my booth, and I've got to prioritize the right ones. Right. We had so many people, bum a badge off someone. Hey, bro, can I bum a badge to NAMM? Hey, can I bum a badge to NAMM? How can I get a badge to NAMM? Will you hook me up? Give me something? And so I know your audience can't see us, but I always joke the NAMM handshake is you put your right hand out and you put your left hand over your badge and say, no, I'm not really this. I'm really that. Don't look at my badge. Here's my business card. I just got a badge from so-and-so. I had those meetings for 10 years at the NAMM show. Wow. And so my first thing was like, okay, if you should be at the NAMM show, let's just get you there with the right badge. And that's going to really help companies succeed. And it helps us understand our constituency and serve them better. All right. So for an influencer or content creator to come, do you have to be a member of NAMM to come and get a badge and be a part of the show? There's a couple paths, and that's a really good question about membership, because we are first and foremost a membership association, and we are actually a membership association that requires membership for members to attend, in that if you're a company that's eligible for membership, you have to be a member. You can't come in like through a side door. So if you're a retailer or a service provider or obviously a brand, a manufacturer, a distributor, a manufacturer's rep, any of these membership categories, as a NAMM member, you get in the show automatically. And we actually really say, no, you can't get in the show unless you join as a member, because that's the goal. Right. Now, non-member attendees are vital to the NAMM show. So if you're an influencer and you're invited by a brand or a retailer, that brand or retailer will register you to come to the show through them, but you'll be registered as who you are through them. Okay. If you're an influencer that has a large following and wants to come to the NAMM and generate content, contact us. Go to NAMM.org, reach out to us. We have a huge list of influencers that we vet, that we will provide you media credentials, just like media. Media reach out to us all the time. I'd like to come cover the NAMM show. Yeah. We'll say, okay, who are you? Let's check out your following. Are you legit? Most everyone is. And we will help you get there. So awesome. Contact NAMM or contact a NAMM member, and we'd love to talk to you about being at the NAMM show and giving you the tools you need to be successful. What's been the biggest challenge since you took over the position? Oh, wow. A lot of these NAMM pre-COVID, COVID, NAMM did not have a show in 21. Right. It bounced back, but because of, COVID restrictions and California closures, we couldn't do our January show until 24. So just coming in to something that was completely disrupted and realizing that, we could do two things. We could go back to 2020, or we could go forward to the way the industry's evolved. And so the biggest challenge was making sure that really, tens and tens of thousands of people who attend NAMM, but also millions of people in the world who know NAMM actually know NAMM as what we're evolving into and where we're going in the future, and don't think of us as what we were in the past. Okay. And I'll give you one example of that. So before COVID, yes, there were online buying portals. Yes, you can launch product on YouTube. But even like 2010 to 2020, that decade, people were still launching product at the NAMM show. We still had that going. Well, when COVID happened and no one could travel, our industry and every industry figured out real fast how to launch product, connect with their buyers. They built buying portals. They built online ways to connect. Yeah. So every industry sat around and said, okay, well, what's the value of a trade show? Because you don't have to wait to January to launch a product. You don't have to wait to January to see your distributor. You could do a Zoom meeting or, so our industry had evolved a little bit. We had to say, what's the value of our show? Yes, it's still those face-to-face connections, but it's also about brand influence. It's about growing with influencers. And so the biggest challenge for us is we evolved right away. We knew how to evolve because we talked to members. We knew what they were doing. But our biggest challenge is our product. We build a new product every year. If you think about the NAMM show as a product. Okay. After the NAMM show in January 2024 was over on January 24th, that product is gone. End of life. There is no NAMM show in 25. We have to build it. We have to rebuild the exhibit hall, talk to 1,800 companies, over 4,000 brands, register 75,000 people, build out a schedule of 600 events, and it's not rinse and repeat from last year. Right. Every year, we are reinventing the NAMM show to be what it needs to be for the future of the industry. But we have to market and promote a product in January 25 that people have never seen before. So they're always looking back to what you were in 24, and we have to go out there and say, okay, but this is what we're going to be in 25. And the challenge was people like, well, you weren't anything in 21. You were a really small show in 22 because international travel restrictions were still in place and none of your international audience could travel without being quarantined for 2 weeks. Right. So we had barely any international audience, and we are a large international show. 125 countries, are a huge presence. We are the world show. More people from other countries meet each other at NAMM show than they meet in their own country. Oh, wow. People come to the NAMM show to meet even people in their own country because it's the industry's gathering. That's amazing. So then, our biggest challenge was overcoming, April of 23, it was like a good show, but it wasn't truly NAMM. January 24, that was the great, we're finally back in January. Here we are. But still, people had to see that to really decide, are we coming back? How is NAMM evolving? 25 is going to be evolved so much and so much more exciting than even 24, which was a great, great show. But the crazy thing is nobody sees our product until they're there. And then it all starts over and we have another 360 days where we have to market a product that doesn't exist. Wow. That's why I'm on this show. That's why I want to talk to as many folks. We're amplifying our marketing efforts and we're really going out and saying, NAMM's like a bottle of wine. The 2024 vintage was amazing. Wait till you try the 25. I love it. And we've already planted the seeds for the vines for 26 and 27. And they're looking really good. That's the goal. That is amazing. I love it. I've never gone and I'm just excited about it. I would love it. I've got to figure out how to get to one of these days because it just sounds like it's life-changing. Yeah. It's life-changing. So, all right. A bit of a history question, I guess, for you. We'll throw this out for you because you said you spent a lot of time reading the history of NAMM. With it being such an enormous show and recognized worldwide for what it is, when was the first real NAMM show? Good question. Well, it's funny. So the first show as an association was 1902. We were formed in 1901 as the National Association of Piano Dealers of America. There's another A in there for a reason. And then the first thing they did is convene. And again, in 1901, there was no radio. Right. The talking machine, the kind of commercial Victrola kind of talking machine was later in the 15, 17 range. So it was, you wanted to play music, you bought sheet music, you played piano. And so we evolved from a piano organization into a organization where instruments and other things. So your question about the first time in history where I think the NAMM show started taking shape as it is today, I definitely think pre-World War I.
Oh, wow.
I would imagine sometime in the 30s, we had a really good model because you get through Thomas Edison exhibited at the NAMM show some innovations around music making objects. And, that was in the roaring 20s. So maybe even before the Depression, we might have had some more because it was 1917 when NAMM officially took the name NAMM instead of the National Piano Dealers. They just changed the name. Because when electronic music and actually the Victrola, it was called the talking machine. Today we call it a record player.
Right.
When the talking machine came out, piano dealers are like, well, if people can just put a record on this thing and crank it, they're never going to learn a piano. The industry's dead, blah, blah, blah. But then they decided, no, we have to evolve our business and start selling these. We sell pianos and talking machines. And then as more instruments started coming about, retailers became more full line instrument sellers, things like harmonicas and accordions and all these instruments. So I think sometime in the 20s, we might have had a show which was like really product intensive, not just piano. But then the Depression made that very difficult. In fact, harmonicas sold a lot because it was the most affordable thing you could do. But I think there was some areas of strength after the Depression in the 30s. We really were able to build up again. And then obviously World War II disrupted a little. When the NAMM show came back post-World War II, baby boom, music in schools boom, that was when it really started taking off.
All right. Well, I know we've got to wrap things up here. So is there anything that I missed that you wanted to get out to people listening about the NAMM show, how to register or how to get there or how to find it on social media?
Yeah. So, NAMM.org, NAMM.org, NAMMfoundation.org. You can find us. You can Google NAMM. We're very lucky to have a brand that doesn't have a lot of competition. So NAMM, you'll find us right away. You can, go on the website. There's information about attending the show. There's information about what we do as an association. Definitely check it out. Feel free to call us, email us, contact us through the website if you want to attend. I think you've been so good about teeing me up to talk about all the great things about NAMM, and clearly I get excited about it.
Yeah,
I think if I could, wrap up for the listeners, because I know a lot of people listening to this podcast are really listening to musicians, and we as the products industry are quite frankly nothing without the people that are spending their lives and dedicating themselves to making these products sing and make sounds that create emotion and make the world a better place. And so we as a products industry are right there working tirelessly to make sure that everything we make, every innovation of that DJ gear, every innovation of that software, that plug-in, the composite material in the bell of a trombone, whatever it is, our companies are just innovating to make these products as beautiful as possible for musicians. So that connection is so important to us. We value you. We value what you do for creating more music makers, and we've got your back.
Well, and thank you for spending so much time with me explaining everything. It's been educational and just a lot of fun. Thank you so much for all your time.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark. It was fun.
you.